Right, so homeschooling, this is a very, very important topic that we should all be paying attention to if we have children. And personally, I'm very passionate about homeschooling. It's something that I came across many years ago. And for my children, we are homeschooling, and we've looked at different models, but the main thing is that we've really started to look into it. And why I recommend homeschooling and why I think that maybe if you've got children, you should be doing it. Essentially, you want to be the one to parent your children. You want to be the one parenting your children. In schools, what you'll find is that, teachers will come to school with their own baggage and different views and opinions, and then you'll have children coming in from different walks of life and different types of ways of thinking, and obviously they'll be influencing your children. And your children in the early years, unfortunately, they don't have something called a critical faculty. And what the critical faculty is it's sort of a layer that protects the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind, I mean, we can go deep into this now, but this isn't the purpose. The point is that the subconscious mind is what actually ends up living your life for you. So we want to be very cautious of what exactly the children are being exposed to when they're young. So we want to be trying to encourage and cater for them where possible in those early years. Some say first 7 years are very impressionable. Some say the first 11, 12 years. I mean, you can play it by ear. You will know your child. But essentially, you want to try to protect them for a period at the very least, however long that is. That's up to you. So we want to be the ones to instill those values and the life lessons that we've learnt, that we feel will be beneficial for our children, because obviously they're our children and they mean everything to us. So obviously it would be, we would only do the best for them. Whereas if you leave them out into the wild, you don't really know what information they're downloading. So again, at least for the early years, I would definitely recommend it. Obviously, I've put down extremist views here. There's lots of extremist views out there. There's loads of extremes on either side. There's people doing something too much, or people doing too little. Ideally, in an ideal world, obviously we're not perfect either, but we kind of want to be conscious of this. So, and when we're conscious of this, we want to try to usher our children into the moderate and middle path where possible, where they're not being an extreme person on either side, and how they deal with things as well, and how they regulate and manage their emotions. These are things that we can teach them, obviously, if we're aware of them ourselves. Again, why with homeschooling, if it's done correctly, we want them to have the creator mindset and not the consumer mindset. And again, this is a bit of an education for the parents out there, but essentially this is really important to understand and grasp, this concept of being the actual creator and not the consumer. So you look at the likes of all the people that are putting the information out there and all the products out there, producing everything. So you've got the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezoses and Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, they're good examples. You had Steve Jobs as well, but he's passed away now. I was going to say him, but I thought, well, he's not here. But so you've got all these guys, they're creating everything, and they're the actual trendsetters. They're the ones that are producing everything and making the change in the world. They're the biggest contributors to the world. So why can't we be the biggest contributors? Why can't we have our children to be the massive contributors and serve people and give back and do whatever we can to give back? So we don't want to just we don't want our children just to blindly follow the sheep and just be the lemmings, just following along with whatever the trend is, or, oh, here's the new iPhone, let's go and buy that. We want to be instilling in their mind the sort of the nature of figuring out, okay, how was that iPhone made? How could I reproduce something better? Or this console that I'm playing, yeah, sure, there's nothing wrong with playing consoles, but you want to sort of embed it into your children's mind that there needs to be an element of not just blindly playing and just being a consumer and escaping and using it for escape purposes. There needs to be an element of, right, how could I reproduce this game? Or how was this game produced? How did they make it? Create that curiosity. And I think that with that mindset, obviously, and you constantly teaching this they can become the creator and move away from the model of the consumer, which is what, sadly, what we were sort of predominantly raised on. And again, so you want to have them being the trendsetter. And there's a self-sufficiency through, if done correctly, again, through homeschooling, you can have your child be with the creator and producer mindset. You can have them actually being a bit more self-sufficient, because they will immediately be the one putting out all this information and producing the content and producing the products or services that the world is being served with and buying, and obviously financially that will eventually give them a financial freedom that sadly you can't really earn by going through the education system, then working for someone and working through the career ladder. You won't be able to do that. So the financial freedom that you can get through working for yourself and having your own business and having that sort of consumer mindset, there's just no comparison to the guy who just goes into a job and just carries on working through until he's retirement age, and then that's it. His life's gone. That's it. He's done. So we and whilst our children are young, we want to be sowing these seeds where possible. Again, so based on the people that have the most impact out there. Different methods out there of homeschooling. I mean, I see loads of different methods. There's loads over here. I mean, loads of people actually just pull the kids out and literally homeschool, like literally school their children at home by making them do maths and geography and history and sciences and all that stuff, but they're doing it at home. I mean, you could do that, but I mean, from my experience personally, I feel as though that's just going back down the school path. And a lot of the stuff actually that they teach in the school curriculums, you may not actually be able, it may not serve the child right there and then. So, for example, simultaneous equations or algebra, when did those actual concepts help you when, say, the pandemic struck, when the COVID-19 pandemic struck? At that point, there were so many people that were just thinking, right, okay, we don't have food, and we now need to load up our baskets and just take as much as we can and run. There was no sort of it was almost like they weren't prepared for it. It was because of that linear thinking. So again, knowledge, I feel, needs to be obtained as and when it's needed through life experiences. But again, we can come on to that in a minute. And then you've got forest schooling, and academia. Forest schooling I think it's a Scandinavian model whereby in the early years, up until I think 7, 8, 9, the children are encouraged to spend time in nature and use nature to create and build different things and learn, just basically learn and observe and see what's around them and just let the mind grow naturally in nature. And that's a concept that I think is a very good one. Then you've got unlearning, which is sort of, I'm not too familiar with unlearning, but from my understanding, you leave the child to kind of just naturally pick up what they familiarize themselves with, and then eventually they start to pick up more and more and more, and then they grow, their database grows, and they increase in learning. And then you've got child-led, which is just trying to aim for confidence and trying to get the child to the place of confidence through doing what it is that they're comfortable doing, and then expanding on that and going through that avenue. I heard years ago that in Germany there was a school system that did this. So they encouraged the children based on what it was that the child really wanted to do. And then you've got Montessori, which I don't really know too much about that, but there's lots of nurseries around, and then you've got loads of non-Montessori nurseries which practice that. And then you've got the house. So in my opinion, when it's all said and done, you've got lots of different methods out there. I'll also make a note, actually, a guy that was actually influential for me was a guy called John Taylor Gatto. You may have heard of him if you're watching this. John Taylor Gatto. And this guy, you can look him up. A lot of his lectures around there. He was a teacher in New York for 30 years, and he won awards for being a teacher. And his conclusion was that the teaching was done wrong, the system was broken, and that we needed to actually give the children a bit more of a multi-dimensional way of thinking. But I mean, I'm not going to go over what he talks about. You're welcome to look him up. So we've got the hows. Obviously, it depends. It varies. There's no one system for everybody. So it varies on what the parent feels is necessary. My personal preference would be to give the child a solid foundation through an understanding of scripture-based faith. Give them their own faith, the religion that you are comfortable with, and that your ancestors followed. And literally, I mean, basically make them have a strong identity within themselves. Make sure that they're understanding that the study of it and the understanding of it and the respect of it, is what makes everything, and how, and sort of go into the different types of elements and the mainly the character-based elements where they can actually learn from that and improve their own character. English, maths, definitely I'd recommend as a basic. So you really want to have the basics of English and maths perfectly down. They need to be able to read books, because once they can understand how to read, you can just send them off and just keep giving them reams and reams of books, of informative books that you feel would be of benefit. I know John Taylor Gatto talks a lot about reading and giving the child books to read and let them sort of grow their mind through that. Maths, again, given the basics, so at least they can function and work with, day-to-day maths, basically, mental arithmetic, mathematics. At this stage, I wouldn't go too deep into the higher level maths. Again, if and when they need it, it will serve them. And then you've got the business element. So this is a massive one for me. I would definitely recommend moving your children into a business capacity as soon as they can handle it. I mean, everyone accelerates and moves at different paces, but as soon as you feel that your children are ready to actually communicate with you, you could have them set up a limited company, or you could have them sort of liaise and communicate with business groups. You might even be able to find them some sort of an apprenticeship as early as possible, just to get them that exposure to relationship building, to actually creating and producing a product, or even just reselling something, or providing a service of some sort. Whatever it is, this is where the real learning will take place. And this is where I know there's a lot of parents that through homeschooling they get a bit concerned about socializing and everything, but socialization, everyone gets it at different ages anyway. I mean, you start to socialize and learn through application, and this is massive. I mean, I've observed this in so many cases and so many examples. But as soon as you start to have a need and have challenges and have actual roadblocks that you're facing, you will find that the knowledge that you will acquire to go past that roadblock or to overcome that challenge, you will never forget that knowledge and information. And so as a child, that for me is a powerful instrument. It's a powerful technique to learn. You could even go so far as teaching high-level maths and English at this point, because you're constantly going out there and you're doing different things with different people and learning different things, and they'll come across different experts maybe, and this is where you can rub off with each other and do like a community-based learning, which in my experience is a very powerful way of learning and picking up new skills. And again, not to mention that the industry of self-learning is actually skyrocketing at the moment. I don't know the exact figure, but I think Forbes did predict that it will be worth around $350 billion a day within the next 5 years. So it is growing. So self-education, there is now a market where there is an understanding where you start to grow yourself as and when you actually have that intrigue and understanding. But again, it's down to the parents to instill that intrigue and that critical thinking and that open-mindedness within the child. The importance, so in my opinion, the importance of homeschooling is, the key thing for me is that once you've taught your children all of this, again, this is something they can pass on. They can pass on to their children and their children, and it can go on for generations. And this is a powerful concept. I mean, if you could pass on a powerful skill through the generations and break the cycle of the regular cycle of going to school, working through everything, and then just finding a mediocre job, and in some cases not even finding a job. This is a gift that you are handing over to your generations to come. this will also allow them, providing it's done successfully and they are doing the whole business route through an early age, they'll be able to impact and serve people around the world far more effectively than if they were sat in a standard job where they were. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with jobs or anything, so I'm not putting jobs down. But what I'm saying is that you could have far more impact than, say, if you were in a job where an average job, let's say administration role or whatever. Again, you could impact more people, so you could earn more, and then you could feed more people, or you could donate more to charity, or you could help more loved ones, or you could help people that are actually in need. So there's so much more that can happen when you've actually set up that sort of system and got it working for you. I found that children that have been homeschooled tend to be just slightly more rounded and less in with the current trends of what's happening around in the world, and I think that's that sort of open, distant view of everything, and just to have that more balanced thinking, I think that will serve everybody better, as opposed to being too lopsided or one way or the other. And again, the critical thinking, very, very important part of this, is to actually have your children question everything. Okay, you're consuming this. What are you consuming it for? How did they make that? How did it come about? How did the idea come about? Why did it? What need was it serving? Okay, so what other needs are there? I mean, sometimes with my children, we go out and I'll ask them to look at where they can see needs. So it's sort of a needs analysis. So we go around and we think, okay, well, actually, that guy could benefit from this, or that lady could benefit from this. Actually, do you think there'd be a need? So you try to just note down the things that there would be actual needs for and something they could serve. So again, this is part of critical thinking. And I think, again, it gets them into the sort of mentality of being that creator and producing things, that services and products and goods that actually the world could benefit from. So obviously this is my take on homeschooling. This is quite a bit of good information here, and this is from my experience. And again, I hope you find benefit from it. So hope you enjoyed.